Imagine a powerful politician, a governor at the absolute top of his game, suddenly getting picked to lead one of the most important religious centers in the entire world. Now get this, he's not even a member of that religion yet. I know, it sounds like fiction, but it's the incredible, true story of Ambrose of Milan.
All right, let's set the scene. We're in the 4th century. Milan isn't just any city. It's basically the second capital of the Roman Empire. Its bishop has just died, and the whole city is on a knife's edge. It's completely torn between two rival Christian groups, the Nicene Christians and the Arians. Things are so tense that the election for a new bishop could easily just explode into a full-blown riot.
So to stop that from happening, the provincial governor, a guy named Aurelius Ambrosius, shows up at the election. And then, something completely wild happens. While he's giving a speech, trying to calm everyone down, the crowd starts shouting, not for a priest, but for him to be the next bishop. Yeah, the politician.
So how in the world does that even happen? That's what this first part is all about, this radical, almost unbelievable transformation from a secular ruler to a spiritual leader.
What's just mind-boggling here is the speed of it all. In 372, Ambrose gets appointed governor. Fast forward 2 years, he's just trying to keep the peace at an election. And then, in the span of a single week, just 7 days, he's baptized, ordained as a priest, and then consecrated as the Bishop of Milan. It has to be one of the most insane career changes in all of history.
And we're not just talking about a new job title. This was a complete and total rejection of his old life. He went from being a consular prefect, a man of Roman law, land, and money, to a servant of God. He literally gave away all of his possessions to the poor, trading a life focused on power and rhetoric for one centered on scripture and theology.
And he didn't just go through the motions. He committed to this new path with an incredible intensity. He didn't just play the part, he became it. He adopted this really austere, frugal lifestyle and just dove headfirst into intense theological study with a priest named Simplician. He even learned Greek just so he could study the Old Testament more deeply. He was basically forging an entirely new identity from scratch.
And this quote, wow, it gives us this really rare glimpse into his inner world. For Ambrose, this wasn't just hitting the books. He felt like he was literally walking with God in paradise. He found this incredibly deep personal connection to his new role, and that connection would become the source of his unshakable conviction.
Now, this massive personal transformation didn't just stay behind church walls. Oh no. Ambrose's new philosophy quickly turned him into a champion of the common people, and that put him on a direct collision course with the Roman Empire itself. So here's the key. His view on charity was, revolutionary. He argued that the wealth of the world belonged to everyone, because God made it for everyone. So when a rich person gave to the poor, it wasn't some grand act of generosity. It was simply repaying a debt. An idea like that, it absolutely electrified the people and made him unbelievably popular and powerful.
His influence was also incredibly intellectual. All that earlier training in rhetoric, it made him a legendary preacher. He was so good, in fact, that he captivated this brilliant young man named Augustine, who, up until then, had kind of dismissed Christian preachers as being, unsophisticated. And this year, this is a huge moment for Western thought. In 387, Ambrose baptizes that young man, Augustine. So now you have the former governor becoming the mentor to a future saint, a man who would go on to become maybe the most influential theologian in the entire history of the church. You can just feel the personal impact he had. Augustine's own mother, Monica, who's also a saint, by the way, saw Ambrose as a true angel of God who saved her son. He wasn't just some public figure. He was a force of nature who was fundamentally changing the lives of the people around him.
All right, so now we get to the heart of the story, the real drama. Armed with the love of the people and this deep, unwavering conviction, Ambrose was about to do the unthinkable, take on the absolute power of the Roman emperors.
So, the first big showdown happens when the emperor's mother, who was an Arian Christian, demands that Ambrose hand over a major church in Milan for their use. This was a direct imperial order. It was a test to see who really held the power in the city, the bishop or the emperor.
And Ambrose's response? It was just stunning in its defiance. He basically said, you can take my body, you can imprison me, you can kill me, but you will never have this church. I will die right here before I let that happen. It was an absolute, point-blank refusal to bow to imperial power.
So how did he pull it off? Well, it was a masterclass in civil disobedience.
The emperor gives the order, Ambrose refuses. Then he and his entire congregation barricade themselves inside the church. They just stay in there, singing hymns to keep their spirits up. Faced with a city on the verge of total revolt, the emperor had no choice. He backed down. He rescinded the order. The people had won.
But believe it or not, Ambrose's most daring move was still to come. When the Emperor Theodosius I ordered a massacre of 7,000 civilians as punishment for a riot, Ambrose did something no one had ever done before. He excommunicated the emperor. He kicked the most powerful man in the world out of the church.
And the result of this showdown? It changed the world. The emperor, the ruler of the entire Roman Empire, humbled himself. For months, Theodosius performed public penance before Ambrose would finally allow him back into the community. A brand new precedent was set. Even an emperor had to answer to the moral law of God.
So, beyond all these dramatic political confrontations, Ambrose's legacy is also deeply woven into the intellectual and cultural fabric of Christianity.
I mean, his impact was just so incredibly wide-ranging, from his massive influence on St. Augustine to composing church hymns that are still sung today, to defending the church's independence and reforming worship itself. His contributions were huge, and they have lasted for centuries. To get a little more specific, he wrote major ethical commentaries. He's credited with composing the style of music known as Ambrosian chant, and he's even believed to have written the famous Te Deum hymn. He was a huge champion for flexibility in worship, always believing that the liturgy should serve the people, not the other way around.
So let's bring this all home. Why does this 4th century bishop, this governor who became a saint, why does he still matter to us today?
Here's the bottom line. When Ambrose died, he left the world a very different place. He left behind a world where it was now possible to imagine a power that was actually greater than the state. He proved that spiritual and moral authority could stand up to and even defeat absolute political and military power. That one idea would go on to shape the next 1,500 years of Western history.
And that really leaves us with a question to think about, doesn't it? The life of Ambrose forces us to ask, what is the real source of authority? Is it found in an army, or a title, or an emperor's crown? Or can it be found in the unwavering conviction of a single person standing up for a principle they believe is more powerful than any empire?